Story 12. No Longer Together. Posted on February 17, 2022. The following is a true story experienced by the author. Recap. So on the last story, Mind Games. Basically, Fat Tinkerbell felt that RoboCop now knew her secret about how she likes him. So he'd obsessively follow her around at work like crazy. Soon, she ended up telling her friends the Weed Guy and Diet Coke about how RoboCop is following her. Later on, the following stopped completely and Fat Tinkerbell was sad about it because she had only done it for RoboCop to confess his feelings. And soon after, she found out that RoboCop never truly stopped following her and was now watching her from really far off distances. Several times throughout the shift and throughout the days she'd catch him watching and stalking her from far away places. And as soon as she'd spot him, he'd immediately turn the other way and keep moving or leave. Fat Tinkerbell felt glad that she kept RoboCop somehow interested in her, even after all of that. But let's begin this story. No Longer Together. Fat Tinkerbell was working at this maze almost 6 months now, and she could never get used to the amount of humanity that came to shop at this place. Just the pure extreme amount of humans. All mixed with the extreme heat and that hideous uniform. The only reason Fat Tinkerbell kept pushing through those uncomfortable areas of this job was so she could be working side by side with her crush RoboCop. He was the reason she come to work on time, he was the reason why she wouldn't ever quit, he was the reason she wanted to stay and live at that job. As we return to our story, we've learned that RoboCop was following Fat Tinkerbell like crazy all throughout the maze. Fat Tinkerbell later ends up telling all the coworkers about how RoboCop is doing that to her. Soon RoboCop stopped all the following he was doing to Fat Tinkerbell altogether. Later on as the days passed, Fat Tinkerbell discovers that RoboCop decided to stalk her from far, far away instead of following her around like a lost puppy. It felt almost as if RoboCop was using binoculars to look at Fat Tinkerbell. And from there on out, it would be this one situation where Fat Tinkerbell would spot the RoboCop from a far-off distance. And as soon as she spotted him, he would turn the other way and continue walking. Fat Tinkerbell decided she liked the far-off stalking from RoboCop. Since the reason she had told everyone about his following behavior was for him to admit that he likes her or something like that. But instead, he just stopped following. Fat Tinkerbell was glad that such a hot and handsome young guy like RoboCop was still giving her some type of attention. She kept her faraway creepy stalker, and after a while she got used to all the watching and stalking he was doing. It was so flattering to her that she truly believed at times that he was absolutely in love with her. Especially since he had gone out of his way to trick Fat Tinkerbell into believing that he no longer was following her when he truly was. Regardless, she still behaved with complete hatred and indifference towards him. Every time she caught him watching, she'd move along immediately to not stay there in his visual. He'd also turn the other way and move along as soon as he was caught. At the time, it was still unknown to Fat Tinkerbell if he was single or taken or even married. Fat Tinkerbell had no way of finding out about the current love life of RoboCop. Obviously, he was getting some with how attractive he is. Fat Tinkerbell could not ask anyone about it because anyone could let him know about how interested she is in him. Her secret would truly be uncovered. If it wasn't already. When Fat Tinkerbell complained to Weed Guy and Diet Coke about RoboCop, they'd both tell her that RoboCop is like a teddy bear, that all she has to do is talk to him and find common ground with him. They'd always be in his defense and stand up for him. They'd always say that he's not as bad as she thinks he is. Apparently around this era, it was likely that RoboCop already figured that Fat Tinkerbell had a thing for him. So Fat Tinkerbell was gonna do everything in her power to change that idea or change that assumption. An assumption that a lot of those characters could possibly know about as well. That Fat Tinkerbell does in fact have a crush on RoboCop, especially because she might have outed herself from the video chaos. Fat Tinkerbell felt absolutely disheartened because RoboCop would not just go on ahead and speak to her. He would not go on and go out of his way to greet her and begin a conversation of any sort. At the time, Fat Tinkerbell had already created a lot of friendships throughout the maze. Most of the little soldiers were already her friends and they all got along with her. The Bear Boy got along with her, the China Boy, the Diet Coke, the Angel Guy, some of the Barbies at the help center. The crazy girl at the little shop, the Weed Guy at times, and many more. Some of them just got along with her well. She had no bad vibes against anyone but the two famous jerks Harry Potter and RoboCop. Fat Tinkerbell at least wanted to have a conversation with RoboCop. She wanted to at the very least become his friend, his little pal. But truly his behavior was like that of comedy, or like he's learned her secrets, like he's read her diary. He either behaved extremely serious with her and telling her what to do and commanding her where to go, all frowning and angered. Or it would be a behavior like that of him laughing and secretly making fun of her. There was no sweetness, or kindness, or sympathy of his part. There was no in-between. It truly started to appear as though he was not romantically interested in her, but instead was completely against her and making fun of her. Making a joke of her. Mocking her behind her back. Many times, Fat Tinkerbell had no choice but to take her break like she's supposed to, inside that tiny office when that paper list told her it was her turn. So she'd step into the tiny office around 8 p.m. at night usually, and RoboCop was sat there in the manager desk typing things in the computer. It was clear to everyone that he was doing daily reports at that time. She'd sit on the desk near him because she disliked to sit further from the door and preferred to be by the door because the door was an exit if anything went wrong. She'd swing that door open and run off if she needed to. So basically she'd have to sit right in front of RoboCop as his desk was right there near the door. Fat Tinkerbell never ate anything in front of RoboCop. She was morbidly obese and maybe around 230 pounds overweight. It would make her look absolutely disgusting if she chose to eat in anyone's visual or near anyone. So when Fat Tinkerbell took her 30-minute breaks, she wouldn't eat anything. She sat on that chair by the door, RoboCop on the computer next to her. And she'd use her own phone as an escape from reality. Many times this would happen, and if anything, it happened every single day. Fat Tinkerbell chose sometimes to not be inside the office while on her break. But that was against the rules. The rules say that a soldier must take their break inside the tiny office, in case of anything going wrong and the managers needing your assistance. RoboCop was very strict when it came to the rules. But he'd allow the little soldiers to take their break elsewhere if they wanted to. Even Fat Tinkerbell. One of those days, of which Fat Tinkerbell chose to sit next to him for 30 minutes doing nothing and being silent, RoboCop had some food laid out in front of him. It was clear that it was his food. RoboCop in the middle of the silence said to Fat Tinkerbell, "Hey Fat Tinkerbell, I have some leftover corn cakes here, would you like to take them?" Fat Tinkerbell couldn't see his face because the computer was in between, but she imagined he had a stupid evil smile across his face. She looks in the direction of his hand and he did in fact have 2 corn cakes in front of him. She imagined it was some form of fat-shaming on his part. So she denied. She then remembered about how someone had gifted her free chocolate strawberries for almost 12 people, and she offered some to RoboCop and he denied it. Telling her, straight up, no, to her face. So she now also chose to deny his stupid little corn cakes. Revenge at its finest. Moving on. Fat Tinkerbell, being the little red Fat Tinkerbell she was, hoped that any of the staring and watching and stalking, and even staring from across the room, and little comedic smiles, meant that he was interested and in love with her. Clearly that was not the case. In real reality it was probably a form of harassment and bullying of some sort. But it made Fat Tinkerbell feel powerful and completely in love. The more RoboCop would give her attention, the more attractive she felt. RoboCop had no reason to be curious about an overweight, unattractive young woman like Fat Tinkerbell. He truly could just pick a girl by catalog. Fat Tinkerbell couldn't understand why this man wouldn't speak with her. Why he wouldn't say hello or bye to her even. He never made it his intention to talk to her at all. Fat Tinkerbell wondered why he'd follow and stare and stalk and ask for location checks. Clearly, he is a manager who needs to manage his employees, but he wouldn't befriend Fat Tinkerbell whatsoever. Fat Tinkerbell came up with another plan to try and find out RoboCop's intentions and see if he'll speak with her. Or a way to continue to get information out of Diet Coke or Weed Guy on famous RoboCop. She was casually talking with Diet Coke one of those days, and she decided to tell Diet Coke the true story of when RoboCop had called her all alone into the office. From Story 5. That one time that RoboCop had told all the employees to stay outside the office because he wanted to speak with Fat Tinkerbell and get her in trouble. From the story of the plan. So Fat Tinkerbell says to Diet Coke that basically she hadn't told her the truth that day that he got her in trouble. She tells her that in reality, he said to her when inside that office that she can't have relationships with the employees. That it looks like something's going on with her and the pretty boy. And that he's been looking at her 5 different times and she didn't notice him at all. So then, Diet Coke, who was RoboCop's bestie, actually became angered by the true story of the plan. And she said that it's not fair that he lets her speak with and flirt with May's employees and doesn't say anything to anyone, but when it comes to Fat Tinkerbell he has a problem with it. So then Fat Tinkerbell says she doesn't want to work under him anymore. Just to simply show that she hates and dislikes RoboCop. Then Diet Coke says, "Why don't you tell him that?" And Fat Tinkerbell had no idea how to answer to that, so she explains that she's scared and intimidated by him. That she doesn't know how he's gonna react to that. Obviously, in reality, Fat Tinkerbell didn't want to not work with him, she actually wanted to work with him forever. But again, she's saying this to keep it out of everyone's head that she's into him. Diet Coke then said that she'll do it and that she'd fix the situation. Fat Tinkerbell immediately tells her not to, that she'll figure it out on her own. Diet Coke then agreed to leave it to Fat Tinkerbell to handle her own issues. Fat Tinkerbell felt so stupid doing this. Clearly Diet Coke was gonna go and say something to her bestie BFF RoboCop, who she talks to all day long. Fat Tinkerbell was effing terrified. She knew something would go down from having done this. The only reason she brought this up was so that by any chance RoboCop said something about liking Fat Tinkerbell. Again, that same old plan. Well, as the days passed by. One day on a beautiful sunny day, Fat Tinkerbell comes into the office and finds out that her schedule has changed. It had Fat Tinkerbell only working under Weed Guy and removed from RoboCop's shift. Fat Tinkerbell was shocked. RoboCop had gone to that a-hole Harry Potter whose D he loves to suck. He told him to remove Fat Tinkerbell from his days. Fat Tinkerbell only saw RoboCop twice a week on those 2 days. She only worked under him those 2 days. But now, in the new schedule, she was put to only work with Weed Guy and never again with RoboCop. Fat Tinkerbell was devastated. She had no idea how to react to it. How to react to that. Immediately, as she saw it and understood, she chose to behave as nothing had changed and as if nothing bothered her. It was the best thing she could do in the meantime. As she was now completely disheartened and upset by it, she had no idea why this had happened. She had no clue as to why RoboCop wanted her not to work with him anymore. Weed Guy, who was her current manager that day and the RoboCop's closest friend and nerdy twin. He didn't say anything to Fat Tinkerbell about it. He probably didn't even notice. Or he probably knew but didn't say anything or want to say anything since it had nothing to do with him. Fat Tinkerbell just decided to play it cool and just go to work. While on her own, she thought of all the probable reasons this could have happened. Nothing came to her mind. Maybe it wasn't RoboCop who changed her days, maybe it was Harry Potter alone. Maybe it was the king. But then she realized that it can't be, as there's no reason to change her days and that she hadn't gone to ask the managers or anyone to change her shifts. It literally was the RoboCop. RoboCop and no one else. Fat Tinkerbell wasn't even notified. As sad as Fat Tinkerbell was, and as heartbroken as she felt, she was still wondering why this had happened but she couldn't figure it out. Days passed, and Fat Tinkerbell hadn't worked under RoboCop any of those days. She felt ultimately heartbroken, like if someone had insulted her or broken up with her. She went through her memories to try and figure out why this had occurred. She tried to remember if she had said something to RoboCop. Or, if she messed up at work somehow, and made RoboCop look bad and gotten him into trouble with how bad she is at being an employee. If maybe it was all the hate stares Fat Tinkerbell was giving him. Her cold and distant behavior towards him. How she'd turn the other way when he popped up out of nowhere, to look at her. How she'd run out of the office when RoboCop was in there. Keep in mind, her behavior truly was like that of pure hatred towards RoboCop, but it was because she was trying really hard to conceal her true feelings for him. She felt so hideous and fat and unappealing that her defense was to pretend she hated and couldn't stand him. It was a concealment tactic. It was a way to hide her secret feelings and emotions on RoboCop. She now believed that it was her distance and hate stares that she was giving him. She now thought that he had done this because of that behavior and looking like she can't stand him. Fat Tinkerbell ultimately felt bad and kind of like a mean, hateful person. When in reality she wasn't that at all. She felt bad for behaving that way towards him for no reason. RoboCop hadn't done anything against her personally. Aside from the snitching that took place in the very first story. And the supposed phone prank that included Harry Potter and Weed Guy. Afterwards he really hadn't tried to bully her or anything like that. The following seemed like bullying to Fat Tinkerbell, because Fat Tinkerbell was an insecure woman, full of insecurities and low self-esteem. However, maybe it truly was just RoboCop being all extra at his manager job. All in all, Fat Tinkerbell was now completely devastated. She confirmed that she had true feelings or a true crush on RoboCop more than ever before. Even if she wanted to deny it, it became true more than ever now that RoboCop was taken away from her. Fat Tinkerbell was completely broken for days on end. She wondered if maybe she should just expose herself to RoboCop and admit that she's interested by saying that she doesn't hate him at all. Or maybe say something along the lines of, "I'm sorry if you think I hate you, that's not the case at all, I'm just like this, I'm shy and awkward, but don't think that I hate you or anything like that." Fat Tinkerbell had no idea how to fix this. She wanted to continue to work those 2 days with RoboCop. It was always an adventure working under RoboCop. Every time she'd work with him, he went all out and made the job all extra. He made the job fun. Unlike any other manager at all. It wasn't just his looks and manly bravado to look forward to. It was all of him. When there were pirates stealing, he'd radio all of the little soldiers and everyone was forced to chase after the pirates. When there was an accident, or a person fell or was in need of medical attention, he'd radio everyone, every last soldier, he'd make a huge deal. Some of the co-workers would have to run all the way across the maze to find the person and help. Find and meet up with RoboCop to help. Like mentioned in previous stories, it wasn't this fun and entertaining when Weed Guy was the leader. When Angel Guy was the leader. Those two sat down inside the tiny office and played video games and watched movies and could care less about the maze. Fat Tinkerbell was so devastated because RoboCop not only was a badass, F-boy, Chad, alpha male, but his persona, his personality, his behavior. It was all too entertaining and exciting. He seemed like an exciting person. Fat Tinkerbell didn't know him personally. But from what everyone else who wasn't a coward like her, from what they had to say about him, that's what he seemed to be. Excitement followed him. Women chased after him. Trouble found him. Drama was his friend. There was no man, boy, guy who Fat Tinkerbell had ever met who was like him, who looked like him. We all hear the stories of the alpha male in humankind. The F-boy, the office flirt, the Chads, the hot guy. RoboCop was beyond that. He looked like he's experienced heartbreak and experienced a million women in his past. Not 100, not 300. I mean a million. A million women. The China boy who was actually a closeted gay. He always spoke with the help center females. He'd tell Fat Tinkerbell that those Barbies, especially the one that slept with RoboCop. That apparently, RoboCop even had his nipples tattooed. He didn't just have his fingers tattooed, he also had his nipples tattooed. Ha 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 ha. That just comes to show you what type of badass this guy is. Men have more sensitive nipples than women do. And this F-boy, Chad, chose to get those things tattooed. Ha 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 ha. But moving on. Fat Tinkerbell was shattered by this. She felt as though now, RoboCop hated her too and disliked her too. If he hadn't already. She was too shy to ever speak with him at all. And RoboCop wouldn't go out of his way to speak with her either. RoboCop must have had his countless females and baby moms to try and sweep someone like Fat Tinkerbell off her big fat feet. Fat Tinkerbell, after a while of trying to figure out why this had happened, just gave up and tried to not mind it. She was still able to see him every time she'd clock into work. Every time she'd clock into work to be working under Weed Guy, RoboCop would be there clocking out of work and getting ready to leave. Basically, RoboCop was the morning shift guy and Weed Guy the afternoon guy. Fat Tinkerbell was always an afternoon employee. But RoboCop covers 2 afternoons when Weed Guy was off on his 2 days. So basically Fat Tinkerbell would see him on the 2 days on Weed Guy's days off. Fat Tinkerbell decided that this will be the reason to change her lifestyle. She decided that now that she's 21 she'd lose all the weight and become the hottest woman there. While working under Weed Guy only, she'd be able to walk around that maze without any interruptions and distractions. So Fat Tinkerbell chose to, within months, she'd lose the excess weight and not be obese any longer. She was tired of being so insecure. She was tired of feeling like less than when it came to the help center Barbies. She wanted attention from men like RoboCop or any other alphas or Chads or RoboCops out there. She wanted that. She was now willing to climb mountains if that's what she had to do. She no longer wanted to feel pathetic and discouraged when thinking about the green-eyed snake or any of those pretty skinny Barbies at the help center. She no longer wanted to be a social reject. She'd make it so that she'd be the prettiest, hottest Barbie of the soldiers. She was gonna make RoboCop beg for her attention. Working only under Weed Guy as her leader made it even better for her to continue to get info on RoboCop from Weed Guy and Diet Coke. Because now she'd have more time with Weed Guy than ever before. It was perfect. It was the perfect plan. Fat Tinkerbell was 220 pounds, and she had almost 90 pounds to lose entirely. End of story. Well guys, that was the real-life, true story experienced by the author of No Longer Together. If you haven't read the previous stories, I suggest you do so in order to understand the characters and the storyline. Share this story with whoever needs it. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and if you've experienced something like this, please leave your comments down below. If you've ever crushed on your boss or your own bully, just leave your thoughts on this whole situation down below in the comments. You can find me on BitChute under the same username. You can also find me in DeviantArt under the same username. My second YouTube is EmyyWolf Productions. All other links down in the description. Thanks for watching.